Prepare for discussion.
With no repercussions.
To protect the world from rebootization.
To unite our recast fans within the nation.
To denounce the evils of rehashes and more.
To extend our cast to YouTube and the iTunes Store.
Pieguy.
Monsters.
Team Recast discussing at the speed of sound. Make something original now or prepare to be drowned. Hey guys, PIEGUYRULZ here, and welcome back to another Pokemon-themed recast. We actually don't have a Meowth this week, so you viewer at home, you should say your name, and then that's right, and then you can be a part of Team Recast.
Yeah, it's like a Dora interactive thing.
I'm just now picturing all of our fans are Crazy Steve.
Hopefully the crank doesn't break.
Right. So it's just me and Monsters this week because, I don't know if you guys have noticed at home, but for the past, 6 weeks, we've kind of had big, crazy episodes.
Yeah.
We had the Endgame one, we had the 40th recast with the Jungle Book, we had the big Toy Story cast, we had BoJack and Tuca and Birdie, which, those weren't big subjects on their own necessarily, but, I had a lot to say about them, and I think they're just, rich with discussion.
Right.
The Lorax live cast we had as well. It's a lot of big topics week after week, and conveniently right after I took over editing.
Yeah. Very convenient.
But yeah, no, so we've had a lot of big episodes, so we're just kind of taking a step back for this week and next week. Next week we might have a guest, we might not, but it's not going to be a huge topic either, because in 2 weeks we've got a really big topic.
A topic 20 years in the making.
A topic that you better be there or be square for.
Oh, no.
Yep, that recast is going to have 30-plus minutes of live-action footage of me and Monsters standing in an empty soundstage, making things up.
Yeah, and also David Hasselhoff will be there.
And we'll also be playing Sandy and Plankton, respectively. Use your imagination on...
Which is which, yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, we got big stuff coming, but no, today we've got a pretty cozy cast. We got 2 very similar episodes. Got some news. In particular, this one news topic that I'm so excited to talk more about, relating to a video that I made this past week. Did you see my video, Monsters? I
did, and I really, really liked it. You guys should go check it out if you haven't. I'm assuming you have, but in case you haven't, please go watch his latest video.
Yep. It's an update on our favorite friend, a guy who brought us together, actually. I mean, we were friends for a long time, but we became a lot closer after
it happened.
We're talking about this like it's some sort of catastrophic event.
Yeah, some disaster.
We're talking about Butch Hartman and his Kickstarter for OAXIS. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the news section. Do we have any corrections for last week?
No corrections that I saw, but I do appreciate a lot of you in the comments left your own horrible theater experiences, and that made us feel a lot better, and that we weren't alone in having obnoxious moviegoers at our screenings.
Oh, yeah. It's also not a correction, but I kind of want to just say that, unfortunately, last week, because it was such a big cast, and because we had just, a lot of things going on, we had some technical difficulties at the start of it and everything, so we started late. Kuro had to go to work at the end of the cast, and it was really unfortunate because he had the most different opinion from the rest of us, and I would have really loved to have heard more about his opinion on Toy Story 4. So maybe, I don't know, maybe next time we have him on for a cast, we can kind of pull him over and get him to say maybe some final thoughts on Toy Story 4 or just talk about it a little bit more. I'm glad he was there, and his viewpoint represents something most people took away from Toy Story 4. I think me, you, and Shadow had more of a minority opinion.
Right, and there was some interesting discussion in the Recast Discord afterwards, too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. It was just kind of funny that he drew himself as Forky because he kind of threw himself in the trash at the end of the recap. He just disappeared. Thanks again, Kuro, for that awesome artwork last week.
Yeah.
And speaking of artwork...
Okay, well, we got some fan art this week from Recast viewer and loyalist Pinata Time on the Discord server, and it's really cool. It features Pieguy and I, and we're holding plushies.
And we're sitting on the Simpsons couch. Yeah, it's really cool. Thank you for that. If you got any fan art for the recast, you can either send it to us on Twitter at me and or Monsters, or you can post it on our Discord server, which we have. There's a link in the description. If you want to join our Discord server and be a part of the discussion, you don't. If you don't have fan art for us, that's fine. You can still be a member of our Discord server. We'll allow it this time.
Yeah, this time.
Not next week though. Moving right along, Monsters. We didn't really talk about what we watched in the last week. What did you watch in either this week or the previous week?
I watched something that a lot of people will probably give me flack for. Not for watching it, but because of the circumstances by which I watched it. And that's Shrek. Because I believe this is the first time I've actually seen Shrek in full, like, ever. Yeah.
You know what, man? Better late than never.
I guess, yeah, I've seen, like, bits and pieces here and there throughout my childhood. And it's always been this thing that I've kind of known about because of its meme status. But I've never seen, like, the whole movie, and I didn't know everything about it.
Aren't you, like, Shrek's cousin, too?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Once or twice removed.
Yeah, I see him a few times at the family reunions. Sometimes the ogres and monsters don't get along too well, but family protects other family members.
It's depicted in the classic DreamWorks movie Monsters vs. Ogres.
Yeah.
Continue, though.
But yeah, I totally understand why it's as iconic as it is now, because it's such an awesome movie. I literally have no complaints about it. The animation obviously is a bit dated, but there's something, like, some of its grossness is oddly charming. I love the pot shots that Disney, you know, the Lord Farquaad stuff with, and also just, like, the whole thing with Duloc being, like, Disneyland. And I also, I believe it's a PG movie. For being a PG movie, I was surprised at how adult it is, because they do say a few curse words and have a few suggestive references and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, then the character's name is Farquaad.
Yeah.
Like, there's also, like, the torture sequence with Gingy and, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very envelope pushing. I mean, it's the movie that gave DreamWorks their reputation, really. It's not DreamWorks' first movie, but aside from being the most iconic, it kind of, like, has all of the DreamWorks hallmarks.
Well, it won the Oscar the year it came out too, right? Or the year afterwards?
I hate award shows. Don't ask me.
I think it won the Oscar, and, you know, it deserves it. It's such a great movie, and, you know, for it technically being, like, a kid's movie, it appealed to me so much.
Let me ask you a question then. Have you seen Shrek 2?
I haven't.
Oh, buddy. You're in
or
for
Shrek
a nice
3
treat.
or Shrek Forever After.
No, we don't need to. Just Shrek 2.
Or Puss in Boots.
No, you don't. I haven't even seen Puss in Boots. No, just watch Shrek 2. Shrek 2, actually, if you could believe it, it, like, does everything Shrek 1 does, but it does it a lot better.
Really?
Like, I'm not saying Shrek 1 is bad, but, like, Shrek 2 is the sequel that is a lot better.
It's the Empire Strikes Back?
Yeah.
Of the Shrek universe?
And then you just never watch 3 or 4, please.
Yeah, I will push those off to the side.
Yeah, I'm glad you liked it.
It was awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad I did watch it, and now I understand a lot more context when people make memes about it or joke about it.
Was it distracting watching the movie after having known it, like, for memes?
No, not really. Like,
okay.
In the opening part, you know, like, where he kicks open the door to his outhouse and All-Star starts playing. Like,
yep.
Like, when that popped up, I was like, oh, that's where that's from.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool. And, yeah, the music is great in it, too. Part of the reason why I watched it, actually, is because it may have to do with an upcoming video I'm working on that has to do with parodying folklore. So, yeah, Shrek. It was awesome. So I watched that, and on the recommendation of a lot of people, especially Ostork Fox from the Roundtable, I watched the first episode of Craig of the Creek, which is a relatively new Cartoon Network show. It's been on for about a year now. And the first episode is called Itch to Explore, and man, this show is great. I mean, okay, let me take a step back here, because I don't want to speak for the show overall. There's like over 50 episodes, and I've seen only 10 minutes. It's literally the first episode, so for all I know, it could have even changed a lot. It could have gotten worse for all I know. But the first episode was so good. I absolutely loved it, and, you know, first impressions are everything. It really hooked me. There's a huge sense of atmosphere. Yeah, the way that Kevin described it to me is that it's like a combination between Kids Next Door and Ed, Ed and Eddie, and I totally get that.
I don't see that at all.
Have you seen Craig of the Creek?
Yep, the same episode you saw, but like
Actually?
6 months ago. Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I started with the 6th episode. Yeah, of course, dude. I saw the first one. It didn't look bad. It just didn't hook me. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, on the contrary, this really did hook me, and I'm very eager to watch more episodes.
Okay.
Just like the whole like world building aspect of it, and kind of the atmosphere of the Creek environment was really interesting to me. Almost kind of like this society that kids escape to, in a similar fashion to the Kids Next Door.
Yeah, that's fair.
In the first episode, there was a few instances of cell phones, and usually that can be like a bad thing. But the use of phones was actually pretty tasteful, I think, and it was a really clever integration. And yeah, it was just, the characters were really likable. The ending was really bittersweet. I guess I'll explain it a little bit, but basically, there's this huge map of the creek, and they want to be like these pioneers and explore an area and claim this area that's never been found before. So they go through this giant poison ivy patch, and they keep getting followed by this mysterious creature. And before they claim it on the map, they find out that the person that was following them was this kid who's resistant to poison ivy, and this is like his hangout spot because he has like 10 other siblings, and it gets crowded, and this is just his escape, and he doesn't want, and it's like a place where he can just be by himself after living in a crowded family. So, he would have been really sad had they put it on the map and a bunch of kids start to go there frequently. And then, obviously they did the right thing and they went back home. So, yeah, I don't know. It was really heartwarming, and I thought the characters were likable. One character in particular, JP, he's like a side character. He's almost kind of like a comic relief. He almost kind of seemed like a combination between Ed and Clarence. Because he's just, I don't know, he's a little bit dumb, and he has these really obscure references he brings up. But yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning of this whole spiel, I've only seen the first episode, so I don't want to speak like I've seen the whole show, but I am very interested in watching more of it.
Okay. You kind of made me a little more like maybe I want to watch a little more of it too.
Well, my job is accomplished then.
It was a while since I saw it. I do remember liking what I saw. I don't know. I guess it's more just like I have a harder time getting into shows like that because I don't relate with them as much because I'm old.
Right.
It did seem to be like a sweet little story, and yeah, I mean the visuals of the show are really nice.
Well, apparently it's from some writers that were working on Steven Universe, and unpopular opinion within the cartoon community, I'm not the biggest fan of that show, but this show feels a little bit different, and I like that.
No, Steven Universe and Craig of the Creek are basically the same show. Like, let's be real, they're identical.
Yeah. And the thing is too, like it seems, I don't know too much about this show, but it seems like each episode is kind of its own thing. There may be some elements of lore and continuity, but these are the types of shows I like to watch because having a sporadic schedule and constantly getting into different things, I don't like to really commit to lore-heavy shows that often unless I'm, like, super determined to watch it. So this is just something that you can casually watch and enjoy whenever.
And that's not as much my taste.
That's fair. So what'd you watch?
Well, not a cartoon, but kinda. I watched The Office.
I love The Office.
It's a really good show. It's one of the best sitcoms of the 2000s. Like absolutely. I'd put it with Scrubs. Like Scrubs is my personal favorite just because I don't know, like I just it hits on a lot more drama and comedy, but like The Office is also really top tier, especially in like camera work. Like I know you don't say that too much on a sitcom, but like it's really ambitious in that it looks effortless, it looks like documentary style, but every shot, every like shaky cam and like, there's a lot of comedy in the camera movements, like zooming in on Jim's face or whatever. Like, and it's all
characters are interacting. Plus, there's no laugh track.
Right. Well, because it's a single camera sitcom.
Right.
But like, and especially considering a lot of the show, not a lot of the show, but a good amount of like one-liners and moments on the show are improv'd.
Mm-hmm.
Especially by Rainn Wilson or Steve Carell.
Yeah.
And so like when you consider that the camera work has to be on point for that, it's like wow. But aside from camera work, it just is a really good and funny show. And like I've found that the more you watch it, the more you kind of like get different things out of it and see different aspects. Like there's raging debates over like who's the worst member of the office. Like Angela, okay, Angela is outwardly awful to everyone, but like at least you kind of know where you stand with her. There's like this upsurgence of like Phyllis is the worst because although she acts very nice and pleasant and friendly, she does a lot of really devious things behind people's backs, and she has a lot of really catty remarks.
People are starting to not like Jim either.
Well, okay, but see, I like all the characters on The Office up until Steve Carell leaves. Yeah. You know, you can keep your D'Angelos and your Andy Bernard season 8 and 9. Like you can leave them. But like I basically like every character, but like in terms of Jim, it is interesting to watch it with the perspective of he does prank Dwight for like no reason a lot of the time. But the thing is the show actually acknowledges this. There's one episode where I think it's the conflict resolution one where Jim's like, yeah, so one day I moved Dwight's desk closer to the bathroom by like an inch every time he got up. And like, yeah, I put a nickel in his phone every day and then I took them all out and he hit himself with his phone. Like he lines up all these pranks and he's like, it's not really funny when you line it up. Like he acknowledges it. So it's interesting to look at it like that. And I mean, Jim kisses Pam when Pam's in a relationship. Like, you know, the characters outside of the more cartoony moments, they are realistically flawed and not perfect and not role models. And that's what I like about them. And like Dwight obviously does and says a lot of messed up things, but he's also a hard worker and he also cares a lot about people at certain points in the show. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing about the show, like how Michael Scott is their leader, but he's arguably one of the most flawed people in that office.
Right. He is not. And like I was watching the show kind of thinking about him in particular, and like I don't think he's a good person. Like at the start of the series, he develops as the show goes on.
In season 1, I don't like Michael
Oh,
Scott.
no. I don't watch season 1. Like season 1 is
bad.
Season 1 is a almost like shot for shot remake of The Office, the UK version.
Yeah.
But the UK version has its own comedy style, and it like
it's
I'm not
Ricky
a huge
Gervais, yeah.
Right, I'm not a huge fan of the UK version, but what it does well. But the US version mimicking the UK, it doesn't work. Like Michael Scott is like a creep towards Pam.
Right.
And actually, on that note, rewatching it now, there's definitely like certain jokes that I don't feel play as well in
2019.
Right. When sexual allegations aren't treated always as seriously as they should be, you know, and you hear all these horror stories left and right in the news, certain jokes, I don't think The Office is like offensive or like, you know, oh well, I can't believe they said this, because a lot of times, like in the episode Gay Witch Hunt, like the joke is that they're like, the show is actually relatively progressive, but the joke is that Michael Scott is like an idiot caveman that doesn't understand what you know, what a gay person is like. But no, there are certain jokes that are just kind of a little more like, that one didn't play as well.
Yeah.
Like sometimes Michael has lines at Pam that are very like derogatory, and it's just kind of like, it's not funny. like sometimes it is if it's so hilarious. Like in one episode's Cold Open, he's doing a video to a hypothetical child in if he were to hypothetically die after having a child, he wants his child to know how to do basic man things. And one of those things is taking off a woman's bra. And so he's like, Pam's going to help me showcase this. And like, that's funny because it's just like, just the ridiculousness of that. Michael Scott thinks that he's going to be able to, like, Pam's going to be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I'll help you.
Right.
I'll help you teach him this life lesson. Like, that's funny because it's so over the top. But like, sometimes he'll make like a comment about like, you should unbutton that top button. And it's just kind of like, yeah, that's just not as funny in 2019.
Well, that's the thing. Like, he's kind of a dork, and sometimes he has good intentions, but he's undoubtedly super insensitive to other people's, you know, comfort and...
Right. Well, and he's selfish is the thing. Like, it's one thing to be really, really unaware, which he is. It's one thing to not understand basic things, or other cultures or whatever. But then it's another thing entirely to be so self-centered. Like, one of the it's not a bad episode, but it's really hard to watch. And I'm not mentioning Scott's Tots. Scott's Tots is amazing.
Oh no, that one's really hard to watch.
It's not the dinner party either. I actually think the dinner party might be one of the best episodes.
That's my favorite episode.
Right. Phyllis's wedding is an episode where Michael basically makes the wedding about him. He's supposed to push Phyllis's father down the aisle in a wheelchair, not just push him, but like, but the man actually gets up out of his wheelchair and walks himself. And Michael's all upset because that was his big moment. And like, he makes really cringy speeches about like saying things about Phyllis. He tries to make it all about him. And it's just, like, he's not a good person. That's not, you could call him a child or whatever, but like, I think even a child sometimes knows when that's appropriate and not. But I'm not saying this that he's a bad character. I like that he's a character where I can kind of sit there and be like, well, is he just like really ignorant, or like, can I judge him for this? Is it right? Like, is he this? Is he that? Is he mentally handicapped? Like, I think the fact that Michael and Jim and Dwight and all these other characters spawn those kind of discussions is what makes it so real, because the idea is essentially, especially with all the characters that aren't Jim, Pam, Michael, or Dwight, all the other characters, they're people that if you've ever worked in an environment, not just an office setting, but if you've worked in an environment where you're close with other people of all different ages, of all different backgrounds, you're gonna run into like the old dude that just doesn't care anymore and he just does his crossword puzzle. You're gonna run into the lady who seems nice but then has these backhanded comments. You're gonna run into the office. Yeah, you're gonna run into the office ice queen who just doesn't like anyone and has to have things a certain way. You're gonna run into all these people, and like, that's what's so great about them. Yes, the show amps it up. Like, Michael Scott just doesn't make sense, like, in terms of why. Like, in season 3, he fires like 3 or 4 people back to back to back over his own incompetence. And of course,
about when the Connecticut branch transfers over.
Right, there's a merger, and I mean, Andy calls it. He's like, I feel like we're touring Willy Wonka's factory with the Oompa Loompa singing, because essentially, every episode someone, and even in that line of episodes, Dwight gets fired, and then immediately rehired because that happens. But anyway, if you haven't seen The Office, I think especially if you're in college or you're in the workforce, or I don't know, even if you're a teenager and you've had a job like that, The Office is like kind of like must-see sitcom, and it is also really funny too, in just a way it's hard to explain how funny it is. It's a certain style that like a lot of other shows have tried to mimic, but The Office is and will always be like the mockumentary style sitcom.
Right. Well, some people also like Parks and Rec. I haven't seen it either.
But Parks and Rec came after. I mean, I haven't seen it, so maybe it is like really good, but I mean, also culturally, The Office is super important. That was a super popular show.
And on Tinder.
It's actually, it's interesting. Do you know how The Office got really popular?
DVD sales, was it?
No. Oh, close. So, in the season 2 Christmas episode, one of the great episodes, Michael Scott they do a Secret Santa, and Michael gives away like a $200 iPod, like a video iPod. Right. Now, to do a tie-in with Apple, they released that episode for free on the iTunes store. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And therefore, and this is right when iTunes was a thing. Like, this was when it was blowing up. Due to the popularity of that got a lot of people hooked in, because season 1 viewership was very low. That's why they retooled the show. And then even in the beginning of season 2, I don't think it did particularly well, but that one thing really helped boost the show up. And then once people were watching, it's a great show, so it's going to keep people around.
Well, since it's been on Netflix, I mean, I'd even argue that the show might be more popular now than it was in its prime.
Right. Well, another great thing about The Office is that it is serialized, not in such a way that you have to marathon it, but in such a way that if you watch like all of season 3, you get the full story of. So first Jim goes away to the Connecticut branch, but then the Connecticut branch, like, there's rumors of a branch shutting down. And then it turns out that the branch shutting down was gonna be Scranton, but then the guy at the Connecticut branch leaves, like the boss. So the Connecticut branch merges with Scranton, and then one by one, all these other background characters that migrated over get fired or quit or leave, and then like including Andy, although he comes back. and then like Dwight leaves and comes back, and there's like this back and forth with Dwight and Andy. Like there's a lot of elements that you don't need to marathon it, but watching a season, it's like they lay the seeds for a lot of like rumors of like, oh, the branch is gonna get shut down and all sorts of things like that. Each season kind of has one of those things, and I don't think you'd really necessarily pick up on it as much watching it week to week.
And if you're gonna watch The Office, please watch the episode Dinner Party, because
not first though. No, not
first. No. You need to know the characters first before you watch Dinner Party.
I feel like if you were to invite someone over to your house that had never seen The Office before, and you put on the Dinner Party and you watch it with them,
that'd make me uncomfortable.
You're gonna have as awkward an experience as is in that episode.
Yeah, well, like as you mentioned earlier about how like ignorant and self-centered Michael Scott can be, this episode totally puts that idea on its head, because we're with like those characters that are visiting their house, and we see that Michael's basically like being abused in a way, and there's someone,
there's no in a way about it.
Yeah, but and he's being like the guy who we always think of as being ignorant and self-centered is being upstaged by his companion, who's that times two.
Yeah. Jan's another interesting thing that if you marathon the show, her character gets a lot more interesting.
Right. Yeah.
All right, but that's quite a bit of The Office. Yeah, that's mostly what I've been watching. I watched some Pokemon too, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the discussion.
Cool.
So moving on to news, Nickelodeon stole something.
What? Nickelodeon did something bad?
Uh-oh. I saw on Twitter, or someone brought it to my attention, that Twitter user LOL Whatburger basically posted a thing where it's a side-by-side screen cap of a picture of a still from a Nickelodeon advertisement advertising SpongeBob and the new Lego show, and a picture that he drew with his own signature, and it's up on, I think, like DeviantArt, that like he drew. And basically Nickelodeon took that picture and used it in their ad. And the most interesting thing about this is that not only did Nick steal the picture, but they also photoshopped his name and signature out. Like, there's so many questionable things here. The fact that whoever put together this promo at Nickelodeon, instead of like having a folder with SpongeBob assets, like you'd think they would, especially for their most popular show that they base like all their advertisements around. You know, I mean, I think YouTubers have folders like that, right? Like, I don't know about you, but I have like a folder where it's like, you know, promotional images of me, or like images that I'd use for like, you know, just stock things that you can use pretty easily. Right. You would think that would be important for whoever put together this promo, but instead, when you Google, it's like SpongeBob BG or SpongeBob background or something. This is one of the first results. You can't even say that like, oh, well, they genuinely thought it was from the show, but they got it from Google because they were lazy. It's not just that they were lazy. They photoshopped his name out.
Yeah, and I'm assuming they didn't ask for permission, which is the most important part.
No, they didn't. LOL, at least not in terms as far as LOL Whatburger's telling us. And unfortunately, Nick and Moore tweeted about this, and it got blown up. Like right now, LOL Whatburger's tweet has 7.1 thousand retweets. So good, and 25,000 likes. Like good, absolutely. There is no excuse. Like I understand that, you know, the fault lies on whoever was cutting the trailer or cutting the promo together, not necessarily like Nickelodeon as a company as a whole. But like, I'm sorry, I think this is like fireable level offense. Like, I'm not gonna start a witch hunt for whoever edited it, but like, if I was Nickelodeon, I would absolutely fire that person, because that's the kind of mistake that like, it's completely unacceptable. Like, they could get sued over. Unfortunately, the artist, I think, is just a normal person. Like that doesn't have Nickelodeon or business money backing them that could sue over it. But if this was stolen from a company, or if this individual did decide to go after Nickelodeon, that's a lawsuit that they could win.
Oh, yeah.
Like, fan art or not, you cannot just take that and put it up. And then especially because they covered up his signature. Like, that's... And it really makes you wonder how many of these things happen that don't get caught.
Yeah. I guarantee you it's happened all the time. Like, I don't think this is anywhere near as relatable, but a few years ago I made a video about the Hey Arnold Jungle movie when it was announced, and my thumbnail was just like it was like a blurred background that I found from one of the episodes, and then I took like a vector of Arnold and then I put like the Hey Arnold logo in it. And that's one of the first results that pops up when you Google image search Hey Arnold. And there's like 5 YouTubers, including like Channel Awesome and a few big YouTubers who have used that thumbnail in their video as like thinking it's like a picture of promotional art from the show. And it's like I barely put any Photoshop work into it, and I don't own any of the art, but still, like it's crazy how much you can do with Google.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, the art, the background like looks really nice that he drew. However, like I could just tell by looking at it that like the line work, it doesn't look identical to how the show does line work.
Yeah.
Like it looks like something inspired by the show, obviously, and I think it looks really nice as an interpretation of a SpongeBob background. But I would not have mistaked this for an actual SpongeBob background unless it was like a really small image I was scrolling past. Like looking at the actual picture. Like I said, it looks really nice. I'm not disparaging the guy, but like the line, it just doesn't look like the kind of lines that would be on SpongeBob. It looks almost a little too detailed to be a SpongeBob background.
Yeah, it's awful that Nickelodeon, at least as of recording this, still hasn't reached out or apologized or offered any sort of compensation.
No, of course not, because that's how you get more people to know about controversies. If I've learned anything, is that if there's a major controversy surrounding you, the absolute best thing to do if you want it to blow over is to not say anything. It's so dishonest, it's so scummy, but the second you gain nothing from acknowledging it. Like I guess maybe some people would go easier like on you if you own up to the mistake, but by acknowledging it, you bring more attention to it. And so, unfortunately, that's kind of the way it is. Yeah, yeah. It's obviously not worth it, but I'm glad at least as a result of this, this person's art is getting more attention.
Yeah. Yeah, and from what I know, too, they had, like, less than 100 followers before this happened, and now they're, like, nearing 900, so it's good that, people on Twitter have banded together and, stood behind this guy, or girl, or person.
So there was a trailer for Teen Titans versus Teen Titans Go.
Yeah. Yep. We finally got that long-awaited trailer after the tease in Teen Titans Go to the Movies and that weird logo DVD trailer thing.
Yep. I don't care.
Neither do I.
Is that weird?
No, yeah.
I honestly believe that not a single person that like wanted the original Titans back wanted something like this.
No. People want season 6. They don't want Teen Titans Go meshed into it. Not to mention the original Teen Titans in a different art style.
Right? Yeah, they don't look good, unfortunately, because Teen Titans Go's budget is just apparently low. I don't know.
Right. Well, from what we can tell, this is like direct to DVD.
Why is it that the more money you make, the less budget? Why is it that the more money that companies make?
It's unfortunate.
It's not like I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this looks like it's going to be awful. It's more just like, this doesn't look like it's doing anything to make me that interested in seeing it. And when you consider that they're putting it out on DVD instead of like on the DC streaming app or on Cartoon Network or Netflix or like what, anything else.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll come to the Warner Media streaming service.
Well, it said it'll be on digital. But I don't,
But that's like iTunes. That's like purchase
view.
Digital.
Yeah.
You don't say digital when you mean like Netflix streaming.
No.
Generally. If it comes to a service that's free, maybe I'd check it out. Like, I'm not like dead set against seeing it, but it's just kind of like, I've seen so many episodes of Teen Titans Go that like either make fun of the original or like praise the original, just keep referencing the original, that it's just kind of like this full-fledged crossover. I really do feel like it's just gonna literally be PPGs versus TTG.
Well, that's the entire trailer,
right? Where it's like, you guys aren't very good heroes, and then Teen Titans characters like shove a jam jar up their nose. Like that seems to be like what this is gonna be. Like I don't think that I really don't think they're going to like make the old Titans look bad, to be honest with you. I don't think they'd do that. But I do think that it's just like, I don't know, who wanted this?
Well, yeah, the joke's old at this point. And I mean, I know at least for me, when I look for when I think about what I admire about the original Teen Titans, it's the kind of more grounded and serious tone with really nice animation, really compelling action, and really heartwarming character moments and interesting character arcs. I don't think this movie is going to deliver on any of those fronts. Yeah.
No. And you keep saying movie. I wouldn't consider it a movie. I mean, it's probably going to be like 60 minutes.
Maybe.
That.
Yeah.
I mean, I TV movie, I guess, even though it's not airing on TV. It's also one of those things where, like, in other contexts, this might be, like, impressive, but considering it's all the same voice cast, like, it's not like, oh, man, they're reuniting the Teen Titans cast. Wow, that's cool, at least. Like, it'll be great to hear these characters again. No, I mean, we've heard versions of them.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some people in their community will review it at least. So I'd be interested in maybe checking out something like that to see if it has anything particularly interesting in it. But otherwise, yep, looks pretty boilerplate.
Yep. Unfortunately.
No surprise to me, at least, that stinger at the end of the Teen Titans Go to the Movies, it was hinting at this. Like,
well, the thing in there too is that, like, at least from what I remember, it didn't look like it was like totally digital animation.
Well, that bit at the end of Teen Titans Go to the Movies is in the original style.
Yeah.
It's not Teen Titans Go's.
It doesn't have like the thick outlines and everything.
Animation. Yep.
It's not all blocky.
Do you think old Beast Boy is gonna still do that like stupid pluralization thing that new Beast Boy does?
I hope not.
It would be interesting seeing the reaction of Cyborg and Beast Boy.
They're gonna meet the more hyperbolized versions of themselves and be like, "Oh yeah, man, these guys are awesome."
Oh god, like the joke in the trailer about like, wow, this Robin is so much cooler. It's like, really, like that's the joke you're going for. Like that's the most obvious, boring. Let me guess. Let me take a crazy guess. They're gonna comment that the old Robin has big hands. Ooh, whoa, right? That's what they're gonna do. Like, basically guarantee it. I mean, they're gonna praise his leadership styles. The two Starfires are just gonna like fangirl over each other. The Ravens like should not get along with each other at all, but they probably will anyway.
Yeah.
So then the last piece of news is that OAXIS got a new website.
Yay.
And it was a fun email update with some fun surprises. Now, there were like a lot of so I made the video, and the video's like 20 minutes long. There were a lot of things that were pointed out to me by you monsters and other people. And then after the video went up, there were also some comments made that like point out like a number more things. But like my video was already super long, so I couldn't. I don't know. I didn't want to make it like a half-hour video.
Right.
But there's a few other things that I think are definitely worthy of commenting on. So one of my big points is the fact that Butch is using Disney and Sony materials in such a way to imply that those movies are going to be on his website. Like I see that as a legal issue, to be honest, that I feel like Disney should probably know about.
Right.
Because it's not fair use to say I'm making a streaming service, and by the way, here's a mock-up of what it's going to look like. Like that, it's using those materials to advertise your service in a way that's misleading.
Yeah.
But you had another point about what the actual content itself.
Yeah, and it's like I left a comment. Like Ready Player One, that's one of the movie posters he features prominently in both the sizzle reel and on his website in the mock-ups of what the OAXIS platform will look like. Now, if you've seen Ready Player One, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of swearing, there's a scene that references The Shining, and there's like a streaming river of blood.
Right.
There's very seductive and suggestive touching and references. It's
Monsters and I don't have any problem with this sort of thing, but the point is that Butch is going on and on about family friendly. We're different. We're family friendly, and yet,
yeah, it's not that.
Yeah, I mean, like the Spider-Man Far From Home, like that trailer. The main trailer actually has like a G-rated censored version because there's some suggestive language and stuff in it. Like these aren't things that I would find too inappropriate for kids, but when you're aiming your platform on being family friendly and like you're using movies that are on competing things that exist that you don't believe are family friendly. Like it's just like And then people in the comments were pointing out the clip he used during the sci-fi section of his sizzle reel. What movie is that from? People were saying it was from like a...
It's like a Neil Blomkamp movie. It might be like Elysium or like Chappie or District 9.
Elysium, yeah. People said Elysium, yeah. And that's not super family friendly.
No. I mean, Sheeper by the Dozen is, but he also couldn't manage to spell family correctly.
Yep, that's another thing. I can't believe I missed it, but the trailer went by pretty fast. I actually slow it down in the video, so like... Yeah, the dude types family every third word. Well, I don't believe Butch actually wrote this up. I feel like Butch probably dictated this to someone.
Right.
But anyway, actually maybe he did, because we don't know who else worked on this website. Butch still hasn't named anyone other than him and himself and his wife.
Well, and his mainstay crew and interns.
But he hasn't named them. I mean, we'll get to that too. That was another thing that you found.
Right.
But like, yeah, he misspelled family, the word that he uses most often in these write-ups, and he couldn't spell it right in the sizzle reel. Hey, investors, there's like 6 words in my sizzle reel, and I spelled one of them wrong.
Can we just like elaborate on that a little bit quickly though? Like,
go for it.
Going from $250,000 on a Kickstarter to asking for $50 million.
Yep. His Kickstarter, does his Kickstarter page say that? Say, oh, by the way, this Kickstarter is just for the beginnings of the website. I still need $50 million.
They didn't say that until after it was done, that this is the development phase. This is phase 1.
If he were to spin it like the $250,000 was just for website development, then that would be one thing. But like, he's not even saying that. He doesn't even have the website on $250,000.
Yeah, I brought up that if Butch Hartman was on the show Shark Tank, and he walked into the Shark Tank and tried to present OAXIS, nobody would want to sign up and give him money. Because unlike a lot of other companies that try to raise investments and capital funding, the company has only existed for a year. He has nothing to show for how the company has been performing. There's no assets. There's no sales. There's barely any production elements. And it's all a bunch of hullabaloo and hypothetical what-ifs. Yep. And you can't get money, and no smart investor with a lot of money is going to want to, especially pitch in $50 million to something
ridiculous.
Of this magnitude.
And although he made the $250,000, $263,000,
68, I think, maybe
68. He didn't have like thousands and thousands of backers. Like, he had about 1,200 backers?
1,250, something like that.
1,250, right. Which is, that's a decent amount of people, but like, that's not, like, if you were to ask me what the install base on Netflix, no, not even Netflix, let's say like Verve, like one of the lesser known streaming services out there. What's the install base there? I tell you, it's probably more than like 1,000 people.
Yeah.
like, that's not impressive. Like, honestly, if OAXIS had like 50,000 people supporting it, even if he had no idea whatsoever, he could still go to investors and say, look how many people really care about this. But no. I bring it up in like an on-screen graphic, but like the fact that he says him and his wife have been traveling around talking to investors, that's where some of that money went.
Yeah.
Like traveling around talking to investors.
That's another thing too. Any proper Kickstarter usually has like a pie chart where they discuss like how much money goes into paying out rewards, how much goes into this and that. There's none of that. We don't know where any of this $268,000 is going. And
mind you, in Butch's Q&A video, the OAXIS Q&A, the one where he answers 3 questions in as little time as possible, he answers the question of like, $250,000 isn't enough to do it. He answers the question by saying, oh no, it's just the startup money. I know that websites take millions and millions of dollars. He actually says that in that video. And now he's saying, oh, well,
sorry, it's much more than originally was quoted to us.
No. You said sorry. Butch doesn't say sorry. That's an incorrect quote, Monsters. No. The line was, we were told the incorrect amount. Not I, Butch Hartman, am fallible, can make a mistake, but instead, someone lied to me.
Well, the fact of the matter is, and you brought this up too, unless he gets more funding, it doesn't look like this is going to happen. And if it does happen, then it's going to spectacularly underdeliver on everything that it promised.
So I say in the video that Butch has nothing at all to show for all of this. And that's true. However, we do know that he has some shows in production. The reason why I say he has nothing to show is because Butch didn't show any of this stuff off. Through a little digging, Monsters did. He found out some things, but in the email and on the website itself, there is no hint, no like, hey, we're working on this game show. The only thing is in the sizzle reel, there's a small clip of a game show, of some sort of low budget looking game show. And you found something on Instagram, I think, right?
It was on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Because, Butch has a few associates that he works with frequently, like Jay Steele, who's his co-host on his podcast Speech Bubble, who participates in a lot of his productions and videos. And
by the way, hang on. Since you mentioned Speech Bubble, we get more views than him.
Take that.
It doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, like, the dude gets on, like, industry professionals and he can't crack, like, 3,000 views on most of his videos on Speech Bubble.
Not to mention, our content's way better, but that's besides the point.
Oh, absolutely. We're honest. We're not liars.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue your point. You found on Twitter with Jay Steele.
So, a few of his interns and, Jay Steele, they posted pictures of behind the scenes on the production of this game show, and they're all wearing, shirts with a number on them, and they're using camcorders to film it, and they're straight up inside Butch's office. You can tell this because there's a bunch of Butch's artwork in the background, and you can see the office tiles 6 feet above the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he invested in a set or all of this production value. It looks like I could have probably put this together if I really wanted to.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a comparison to be made here with Channel Awesome and their Kickstarter for Pop Quiz Hotshot, one of the worst game shows in existence.
I haven't seen it.
It's really bad, and they promised 60 episodes and they didn't deliver it, and it's just they're very, very troubled production. Essentially, they made an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter for that, but really what it was basically just getting the Nostalgia Critic more that stupid looking warehouse, that stupid looking office space and warehouse. If you want to point a comparison of what a low budget game show looks like, look at Pop Quiz Hotshot, and I guarantee you it's what Butch's will look like.
You can't defend it.
No, you had a great point of that. The people in those pictures, it was Butch's daughter, it was Jace.
Yeah, it was Butch's daughter. It was Jay Steele, who works with him on a lot of stuff, and it was also his intern, and then someone else who I don't know. But it was 4 people, and in any regular game show, you don't have your best buddies be the stars of it.
Well, that wasn't even the point. I was just gonna say we still don't know who's working with Butch Hartman. The only people he's got working with him are his daughter, his intern, and then his other intern that's been with, literally no one of any note is attached to this OAXIS.
I mean, in fairness, he is delivering on the family promise. He's not reaching far outside the family.
Oh, God. The family.
Family.
Familially. You're a part of the family trademark. I mean, it's hilarious to also see in that message that how upbeat and positive he is when he doesn't have the funding or any inkling that he'll actually be able to do this. It's
at this point, it just seems like he's trying to do whatever he can and start all of these ventures to make a quick buck. It's sad.
But he has to deliver on something. He has to do something. Unfortunately, that something could just be he throws up the website, he throws a few of his lame vlogs, his wife's gardening show. Which it's not even an announced thing. That's just a thing that we made up because that seems like something that they would do.
Yeah.
The thing is, he can't announce anything because I think he knows that announcing that his vlogs are on OAXIS, or that hey, we've got this really low budget game show, or my wife's gonna read from the Bible, or whatever he's gonna consider content, it's gonna be torn to shreds, as rightfully should be, because any of these projects, at least from what we've seen. By the way, in a sizzle reel, people pointed out that bit of animation, the weird looking CG, that was a Butch pilot that he made years ago.
Yeah. And then his game was straight up from the Noog Network, which is another venture that he probably ditched and abandoned as well.
It's representative of his work, but it's not representative of where this $250,000 went. Listen, I'm not a web developer, and what I do know is that to host video content, basing on nothing else, just looking at hosting video content, it is expensive because you gotta, we're dealing with high quality HD footage. Well, hopefully, maybe we're not with Butch, but like any amount of HD footage, even like 5 or 10 minutes of HD footage adds up in terms of
storage,
hard drive space. Yes, in terms of storage. And video players as well. There's a reason why YouTube is an embed on almost everything. It's because for whatever reason, video players, they're not something you can just like make. You know what I mean? Like it requires apparently a lot of I don't know, a lot of
I know Twitter's and Facebook already don't work that well, and those are very established companies.
Right. Like Dailymotion went under.
Yeah.
So that I understand that it's expensive. Like I don't think Butch is necessarily lying when he's saying it's expensive. I don't think it takes $250,000 necessarily.
No.
But I mean, it also depends on we still don't know. He's promising everything, and we don't know like how long the videos are gonna be. Like we don't know. Like I said, why not get a Wix account, right? Get a lame looking default website for now, okay? And then put up some amount of content, even if it's just importing new content. Like that's kind of lame that he couldn't make anything, but like at least use it as a proof of concept, because right now the promo images and his sizzle reel, it's indicative of nothing at all. I made a stupid mock-up in 10 minutes. Anyone can.
Well, who knows how much it's also going to cost for him to, I guarantee you he's going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel looking for like the cheapest family-friendly content that he can secure the rights to, and that's obviously going to cost some money. And then also people are not really thinking about how much is the service itself going to be once the subscription model is unveiled and he starts offering it.
Or ads.
Or ads, yeah. Or both.
In his Kickstarter, I didn't see any reward tier for like get 12 months of the service for free.
No.
The people that backed it are going to have to pay again for it or watch ads.
Like $25 a month.
I mean, see, that's another thing, right? If Butch is saying it takes so much money to get off the ground, how much money is he going to have to charge per viewer to make this like not even profitable, but just to make it break even enough?
Well, I guarantee you he's going to make the argument where it's just like, this is a service for the whole family. So if each family member, let's say you're in a family of 5, and each family member chipped in $5 every month.
If each family member chipped in $5 every month, you'd only need 2 family members to get Disney Plus, and you'd still have $3.
That's accurate.
If Butch did this like years ago when it was just Netflix, basically, I think maybe, assuming he had the talent to actually pull it off, there could be a space for like a family-friendly version of Netflix or something.
Right.
But now with Disney Plus, with Hulu, with YouTube, with all this stuff, it's just like there's no way.
Netflix in 2018 spent $7 to $8 billion on original content. Just think about the sheer scale of $7 to $8 billion. And then put that right next to 250,000.
And this is what happens when you aren't a critical person. When you keep saying believe and, don't be negative or don't, follow your dreams or whatever. Like, these are not terrible sentiments on their own, but like when you are dealing with real people's money, when you are dealing with promises that you have made to people because you took their money, you cannot live like that. You absolutely need to be held accountable, and you need to take a step back and think, what can I do and what can't I do? God, and it's not, I can't even say that Butch is operating on the do now and ask for forgiveness later model, because he never asks for forgiveness. Never. Not, I spent your $250,000 and I have nothing to show you. I'm sorry for being a complete moron with money. I'm sorry that I thought that I was a bigger, better person than I was. No, absolutely not. I spent your $250,000 and me and my wife are on vacation talking to business people that will never work with me. I still do not know whether Butch is the ultimate con man, or if he is just a complete and utter brain-dead, egotistical moron.
Perhaps a little bit of both.
Well, no, I don't think you can. I don't think you can be both, because con artist implies that he knows what he's doing in terms of like he knows he's taking people's money and he can't deliver it.
Well, think about the criticism. There's no way that he hasn't seen the criticism. I mean, he wrote that letter saying that he would speak to us in the coming days.
I don't want to get too far into it, but he seems to think that his mission is like a divine one. Like
Yeah.
he seems to think that this is his purpose, right? And when you're that blinded by sense of purpose, he could be that dumb. Like, I don't know. I can't say either way. Both of them are awful. Like, both of them are completely disgusting. I really don't think one is better or worse than the other. I think, you know, in a lot of cases, ignorance, you can excuse it a little bit compared to maliciousness. But when you're this level of ignorant that you're harming other people and their money and just telling lies and just being an all around scumbag, like, it's not forgivable.
No, it's not.
But I would actually like to see someone look at the information given and try to put out some sort of positive spin on it, because I really cannot think of any way to defend this.
You can't. You really can't.
You know, and that's the thing. I would still love to have a conversation with Butch Hartman. Like, no joke. And I would not like rail on him. I wouldn't be overly mean. Like, I mean, he never would, never in a million years. But I would still like to actually genuinely pick his brain and interview him and discuss, like, what are you honestly thinking, man? Like, does he know something we don't? I mean, it can't be that, because if he had some big shot backers, wouldn't he say that? Unless there's reasons why he can't say it, unless they're all of them are religious affiliated.
Daystar.
But no, it's not a Christian streaming service. No.
It's not a coincidence that he only appeared on religious and conservative news outlets to promote this.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, there's your Butch news. We held back on talking about Butch for a lot of months on this podcast, and
By a lot of months, we mean 45 episodes.
yeah. Well, you know, we're coming up on a year that Butch posted that tweet about saying we'll talk on YouTube and the Twitterverse in the coming days. A year, and this man is not. Instead, what he did is he hid his updates on his Kickstarter page, and he also now sends out private messages to his backers only, which I mean, it's a great way to hide from criticism. It's also a great way not to generate buzz for your upcoming project. Okay, so we've got a question of the week from Handless over on the Recast server, who says, how do you guys feel when a parody of something gets way more popular than the original? So I think there's two ways to kind of think about this question. There's, if you were in the position of, like, you made something and then it got parodied and the parody became popular, or if you were in the position of just like a fan, like I guess a fan of the original, and that thing went on. I guess in a lot of ways it depends on how similar the parody is, because like Rick and Morty, right? It is technically, or at least it started out as a parody of Back to the Future, but like it's so different. Even the parody of Back to the Future was essentially just like this old guy and this teenage boy hanging out, and that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? It's so far removed from actual Back to the Future that like I don't think you could be upset or like, you know, anything like that. Like, we wouldn't do a recast on a Rick and Morty episode in Back to the Future.
Right.
Like,
well, topical, how about something like Teen Titans Go, where it's basically a parody of the original? And for a long time it was the most popular show on Cartoon Network. And that does its job in either praising or crapping on the original.
You bring up an interesting point.
How does that feel?
It doesn't feel great. Like, but
well, like with Weird Al too, he has like, you know, the song "White and Nerdy," which is a parody of "Ride and Dirty," and that's arguably more popular as well. But you know, a lot of people are very fond of Weird Al, and he does it in a very charming way. Yeah,
the original thing is a very serious thing, and it's kind of undercut. Like, see, I'm a big fan of Weird Al, so I'm not bothered by it. But if I was a fan of like Gangster Paradise or something, I can kind of see how like you'd be upset or weird, like if you write something serious and then like the jokey thing of it is the thing that a lot of people remember.
Well, the thing with Weird Al too is like it's not demeaning or taking away from the original, because Weird Al in himself is very like quirky and corny in some way. So
yeah, no, he very rarely even makes fun of like the original,
artist,
and when he does it in a very loving way, like Nirvana, like
yeah.
where he's singing about like no one can understand the lyrics to this song.
Well, if you're gonna parody something too, like that's like a genuine criticism and actually like really funny thing to riff on.
If I was a creator and the parody got really, really popular, like I guess I would be happy that at least like, I cemented myself in some lasting memory.
Yeah.
But it is kind of weird, like growing up with like shows like, I don't know, like I'll throw Rugrats out there. Like Rugrats does parodies sometimes.
Yeah.
You grow up watching these things and you don't know it's a parody. You just think this is a great original story about an adventurer with like this brown hat and he runs from a boulder. Like,
yeah.
I guess the thing is, ultimately, if it's something that's going to be parodied, typically it's popular enough anyway that it lives on.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of a good example of like a parody where like the original is like mostly forgotten.
Iceman Cometh, I don't know.
How about Alf, okay? Most people these days, I feel, know Alf from that famous Simpsons quote. Remember Alf? He's back in Pog form. That line is probably more memorable and more people know about it than regular Alf. I've never seen Alf. I know what it is, but like,
yeah.
The Simpsons is another show that parodies things like pretty relentlessly, or at least it did in its earlier seasons. And like, a great example of that is the Computer Wore Menace Shoes, the episode of The Simpsons. It parodies some show where it was like a mystery and there was an island and like there was this guy, they all had numbers and there was like Mr. 9 or whatever. I have no idea what it's parodying. It's parodying something, but I have no idea what it is. That Simpsons episode, well, it's not even a good Simpsons episode, but I would argue probably that Simpsons episode is more popular and well known than the original show, whatever it was.
Right.
That's kind of what it boils down to, is that whatever it is typically popular enough that at least it leaves some lasting memory. And if it's not, then I don't know, I guess it's not hurt. I guess the Teen Titans example is something where
it's more nuanced.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. I mean, there's also the aspect of like Googling Teen Titans now leaves you with some like really mixed results and not necessarily what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I guess what's tricky about parodies, especially in like cartoons, is that you can't really link people to like the original work. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because if you can't say like, hey, go check this thing. Oh, I mean, I don't know. Maybe Family Guy can do that. Hey, how about Family Guy? How do you feel about Family Guy parodying everything?
Well, I mean, I don't think like a singular cutaway gag from an episode would be more popular, but I mean, for some things, like, I only know that Conway Twitty exists because of the recurring gag from Family Guy.
I hate it.
So, I mean, I don't know how Conway Twitty's family feels about that gag existing.
All right. So, yeah. Sorry we didn't have, like, super straightforward answers, but there's, I don't know, it's a lot to think about, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, I guess where I land is that if the thing was popular enough to be parodied, typically, it's at least, the parody might eclipse it, but, like, it's at least in pop culture enough that, like, maybe the parody helped it, if anything.
Oh, yeah. That could happen.
Although, you gotta be, I guess I could totally understand someone being bitter about, like, having created something and then this random Simpsons episode, it becomes so well known and so that people don't even realize it's a parody anymore. There's something to be bitter about that, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, there you go. Next week, Monsters, would you like to announce?
Sure. Next week, we'll be taking a trip down Wilson Way because we'll be going to Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
Bum, bum, ba-dum, ba-bum, bum, bum, ba-dum.
I have pretty positive feelings about this show. However, we're going to be watching arguably two of the worst episodes.
I don't know if the first episode is considered universally, like, unliked. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we'll be following two very unlikable characters, I guess
yes,
we'll say.
Yes, you could say that.
So we'll be comparing the Season 1 episode, Very Scary, to the infamous Season 2 episode, Everyone Knows It's Bendy, written by Lauren Faust.
Don't send people after her.
I think she regrets it. I think she openly stated that she regrets it. So
I'm thinking about it, equal fights. But, no. Yeah, so these are both episodes about new friend characters that come to the house and mess with our main characters. And are very two-faced.
Yeah.
You could say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, tune in next week for that. Okay. We're gonna go on break here, and then when we come back, get your paddles ready, cause we're gonna be pong-ing all over the place. And we are back with some Pokemon episodes. Man, you know, we could probably make a podcast just comparing two Pokemon episodes that are similar to each other.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't run out of episode ideas in probably like 150 episodes.
Oh yeah, it'd be very sustainable.
Yeah. And I mean, mind you, we could have picked episodes that are like, you know, climactic battles between Ash and his rival. Like,
yeah, like two battles on Victory Road or something like, I don't know.
Yeah, see some of the most epic battling in the entire series. But no, last time we chose sentimental, sappy, crying episodes where they released Pokemon, and this time ping pong. So these episodes are similar enough that I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you the description of both of them, and then we're just gonna kind of maybe go back and forth a little bit, because like it's easy to talk about these episodes in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So the first episode is known as "To Thine Own Pokemon Be True." There's a lot of really great titles in the Pokemon anime, but "To Thine Own Pokemon Be True," isn't that like a Hamlet quote or something?
Must be. Yeah, it's a mouthful. I wonder what the Japanese translation is, or if that is like the Japanese
I think
version.
the dub just makes up their own titles. I really don't think, but maybe.
Yeah.
Here throughout, I will be referring to as Diamond and Pearl. In the Diamond and Pearl episode, essentially, Ash and the gang are staying in this town, and they just, on a whim, decide to play some ping pong because that's what the town's known for, I guess.
Yeah, this dude named Barry is like, hey, let's play. And they're like, okay.
Yeah, the episode is so abrupt in how it starts. They're like, hey, there's ping pong tables, let's play. Anyway, they decide to play ping pong, Pokemon ping pong.
Yeah.
And essentially, it's a trainer and a Pokemon are playing against another trainer and a Pokemon. It's a doubles match in ping pong, and the Pokemon can use a body part instead of a paddle. The Pokemon actually can't use a paddle. They have to use a body part.
Right.
And that's the only difference from regular ping pong.
Yeah.
Later, they decide to compete in a tournament, and it turns out that Dawn's Ambipom is really good at ping pong, but they still lose. And the guy they lost to is like, hey, give me your Pokemon. And Dawn's like, okay. No, Dawn's like, I'll let Ambipom choose for itself. And Ambipom's like, all right, I'm a ping pong, y'all. See ya.
Even though I've known you guys for a very long time, there's this game I just got introduced to today, and I think I'm going to ditch all of you so that I can play this full time.
Oh, but don't worry, monsters. Okay, it's in Kanto, right? The guy's going to be training in Kanto. Certainly, Ash and the gang can go visit next time they're in Kanto. They can also visit Ash's Primeape that went off to train in the boxing arena. They can also visit Butterfree.
Yeah.
And by that, which they never see any of these Pokemon again. So we're comparing this to the Sun and Moon episode, Smashing with Sketch, which I'll also be just referring to as Sun and Moon. And in this episode, Alima, who fans of the games might know, he's a trial captain. He's the first trial captain in the anime, and you don't know this, monsters. He's just an ex-student of the Pokemon school, but he's really good at everything. The previous episode established that he's beloved, he's really good, star student. You know, he's been hanging out in Kalos for a while.
Is that why he has fangirls?
Yes. I mean, Gary had fangirls too.
Right.
So this is just a thing in the Pokemon anime, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this guy is just like also really good at ping pong, and so they decide to take a day out of school to play ping pong with Pokemon. So he teaches them how to play ping pong with Pokemon, except this time the Pokemon can actually use moves. Otherwise, it's the exact same thing. They play ping pong. Later on, there's a tournament, and Alima faces off at a ping pong tournament with his heated rival, who's like a guy that reminds people of dragons, and Alima wins.
Yeah. And then he leaves.
Yeah, and then Alima, who's... Okay, let me ask you a question, monsters. As someone who hasn't been watching this anime, how many episodes do you think Alima has been with them?
Like 2?
Yeah, you're right. It was only the previous one. It's a funny contrast that Ambipom was with Ash as an Apom. He was actually traded to Dawn. But he's been with Ash for like, it was like 100 episodes at that point when
Yeah, he was in
is,
Hoenn, I think.
Yep. When Ambipom just decides to leave, and then Alima gets kind of like the same amount of like tearful goodbyes, despite only being there for like 2 episodes. No, literally 2 episodes. Not even like 2 episodes. It's just literally 2. Yeah. Ping pong.
What, Pokemon being overly emotional?
I have a great quote. Well, by the way, I feel like on the recast now we can only cover episodes, or like at least one of the pair has to have a goodbye of a Pokemon.
Yeah.
It's just a recast shit. But no, my favorite quote from the Sun and Moon episode is Ash says, in response to Pokemon ping pong being brought up, he's like, "It sounds kind of familiar, but I'm not sure I get it."
And then they spend 5 minutes explaining it.
Right. Okay, here's the thing. Like, I get that Ash is basically like, they reset him after every series, essentially. Like, it's better to think of Ash as a different character. Like, after Gen 4, at least, starting with Black and White, X and Y, and Sun and Moon, you gotta kind of think of him like he reboots himself, like he's a weird robot. So it's not like that weird that he doesn't remember Pokemon Ping Pong, even though he literally played in a tournament. But it is just kind of funny that the show kind of halfway acknowledges that they've done this before.
Yeah, he's also been 10 for like 20 years.
What, Ben 10?
Ash 10?
One of the interesting things that we didn't mention is that Jessie competes in both of these episodes.
Yeah.
And does miserably. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. She does all right in the Sun and Moon one. So in the Diamond and Pearl episode, she brings Meowth, and Meowth just immediately like claws the ping pong ball.
It's like a slice move or something.
Yeah, it uses Scratch, which is weird because Meowth doesn't generally use moves.
Yeah.
But then in the Sun and Moon episode, she brings on Wobbuffet, which is actually really cool because Wobbuffet in the Sun and Moon anime has done exactly nothing. Like, I like Wobbuffet, but like, if you're gonna have him around, you should maybe make him do more than just say Wobbuffet.
Yeah.
This is the first time in the Sun and Moon anime he's used a move. Let me put it that way.
Wow.
Granted, you know, he only can know like Counter, Mirror Coat, Destiny Bond, and like a few other things. But still, it's cool that they used him in this way. Like, I feel like that was a creative use of Counter. It's also kind of interesting because Alima, who's battling against her, his main Pokemon is a Smeargle. And Smeargle is another Gen 2 gimmick Pokemon, essentially. Wobbuffet and Smeargle are 2 of a few Gen 2 gimmick Pokemon. So it's kind of funny to see them both use their gimmicks against each other. And both their gimmicks involve, like, mirroring the other. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot better than just, like, Meowth's pathetic attempt. There's a Marowak in both these episodes, too. But I feel like Pokemon Ping Pong is like really biased because like it doesn't even make any sense because like wouldn't you bring like a huge Pokemon? Like couldn't you bring a Snorlax and just use him as a wall?
Yeah, technically.
Like the rules on this seem to be very fast and loose, but like Marowak makes sense because it has a bone. In the Diamond and Pearl episode, they specifically say that Meowth is not allowed to use a paddle. So like Pokemon that don't have a good thing to hit back with are just inherently at a disadvantage.
Like Farfetch'd was using that thing too, like whatever
the
he
stick.
feels.
Yeah. Like Ambipom, I'm gonna be honest, okay? The guy in the episode that was impressed by Ambipom, whose name is O, I'm pretty sure.
Mr. O or something like that, yeah.
It's the letter O. It's a letter. They don't have names, they have letters. He was impressed with Ambipom, but like Ambipom like inherently has 2 huge tails that like is just good at this. Like, I don't know that Ambipom really showed off any actual skill beyond just, like, you know, being an advantageous Pokemon to bring to this competition.
Yeah.
The key difference between these 2 episodes, at least between the rule set, and actually just between the episodes, is that in the Diamond and Pearl episode, they explicitly say no moves are allowed, which is weird. I mean, it's weird because it takes away what being a Pokemon is.
Yeah, what's the point of using a Pokemon if you can't use its special abilities?
Yeah, but there's also, like, this thing of, like, what constitutes as a move? Like, if Ambipom hits it so fast that it turns to fire, is that not using, like, Double Slap or something? Like, is that not using Strength, maybe? How about when Ambipom jumps and, like, makes this crazy jump and jumps backwards and hits? Like, is that not a move? Like, what constitutes as a move?
I don't know.
Like, meanwhile, the Sun and Moon episode not just says that you can use moves, but actively encourages you to use any sort of move, including Z moves, which is really unfair to people who don't have Z rings. That's a lot better, I think. I think the Diamond and Pearl episode, I'm gonna be look, I'll be frank here. Both these episodes are really boring.
I agree.
like I picked these episodes because I think it'd be interesting to talk about, but they are so boring to watch.
Yeah.
But the Diamond and Pearl episode, it's literally just ping pong. Like, it's just a lot of like, here's a character's face and another character's face overlaid and another character's face. Here's just repeated animation of the volley over and over and over. No?
Well, I think in terms of pacing, I liked the Diamond and Pearl one better because at the beginning, like in the cold open before the intro, like the berry dude with a striped shirt just explains Pokemon ping pong in a few sentences, and they're like, all right, let's go. And then the animation and like the battles themselves, I think, are actually like really good because
really?
There's not a lot
they're
of
not
dialogue.
Battles. Don't say battle.
I'm sorry.
That implies that something else
games.
happens. Yes, the matches.
The ping pong matches, because there's not too much dialogue and fluff, and the animation, it flowed well. I just felt like it was more active. And then in comparison, the Smashing with Sketch episode, they spend like 10 minutes first explaining the concept of ping pong itself, and then like explaining like how Pokemon are brought into that. And then I guess like physics don't apply in this because
oh no.
Because it takes forever for the ball to be rallied across to the other side of the table, and during that Ash says like 3 lines and then calls out like a power move.
Welcome to anime, man.
Yeah. Speaking of which, this is the first episode I've seen of Sun and Moon, and I think that this is much more in the style of a traditional anime. Just because of, like, all the different faces and...
Really? I feel like Sun and Moon is more cartoon, like Western cartoon. I mean, it's anime, definitely, but, like, it's
just with,
more...
like, all the chibi faces, and I do feel, though, that the Sun and Moon episode also had more limited animation in terms of just, like, showing the backs of characters or just, like, overlaying stills of certain characters and moving them on, like, keyframing them on
Diamond
screen.
and Pearl did that, too!
It did it too, but I don't think it did it as much, or perhaps I didn't notice it as much.
Oh, this is interesting now. Now we're getting somewhere because I completely disagree with you. Okay, first of all, I like the fact that Elima actually there's actual discussion of like ping pong strategy, real life ping pong strategy in the Sun and Moon episode, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I think maybe like 10 minutes of him explaining certain things about ping, like it's a little much.
That's my least favorite aspect of Pokemon, where Ash, where they mention like some random topic, and Ash is like, "What's that?" And then they have that like red Pokedex, Pokedex thing, or just whoever like explain and ramble on about something for 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll get to Rotom, but like no. I found it. I felt like at least I got something out of that. Like, oh, okay, well, there's feints. They're called feints when you bluff, basically, in ping pong, and that's a strategy. Like, you're going to hit it hard, but then you don't. Like, okay, like, you hit the edge of the table, and then it bounces out, and that's a thing you can do. Like, I like that they at least really embraced it, and at least there's, like, a light educational aspect about it.
I mean, I guess, but they spend a lot of time focusing on something that'll be tossed away in the next episode.
Like Ambipom? No. Okay, so I like that. And I think the Sun and Moon anime looks so much better than the Diamond and Pearl anime. Don't get me wrong.
I don't like the character designs.
I get it, but you get used to it. And there are still some, like, cheaper looking things about it. Like, still some corners they cut in places. But, like, Diamond and Pearl, like, not just that Sun and Moon looks better, but I think because those ping pong matches are able to actually use Pokemon moves, it feels like an episode of Pokemon instead of boring ping pong volley.
Well, the thing is, though, like, in the Diamond and Pearl episode, people were actually, like, you could see the animations of people, like, tossing it back and forth and seeing the Pokemon getting involved. Rarely ever during the matches did they actually have, like, it was only sporadic when they showed, like, a character volleying the ping pong ball. It just, they really cut a lot of corners, in my opinion.
They cut corners, or
cutting corners in terms of limiting the amount of motion they showed within the animation. Does that make sense?
I'm just trying to think of which episode are you talking about? And are you
the Sun and Moon episode?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I feel like wherever they didn't show motion, they took advantage of that.
Yeah, but like the Pokemon actually use moves. That's so much more visually
I mean,
interesting.
as someone who's not as invested in Pokemon, I don't know if that really matters to me.
No, but it's more visually interesting. You want to watch an anime about people playing ping pong? There's got to be one out there. There's a Prince of Tennis. There's got to be a Prince of Ping Pong. It's got to be like an Archduke of Ping Pong or something. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm with you on Rotom. Rotom Dex is the worst, whether it's in-game or in the show. He does nothing, and he literally just explains things.
That's another very anime element, I feel.
Well, to be fair, Brock did that in the other episode. Brock does that in a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
Okay, there's this weird thing in Diamond and Pearl where, like, Team Rocket's in it, but they, like, Jesse battles for Jesse ping-pongs for, like, a split second, and then they talk about stealing this thing, and then they don't do it. And James is, meanwhile, he's just, like, bonding with Brock.
I feel like their inclusion in either episode is completely useless.
It is, but at least in Sun and Moon, they didn't try to, like, this illusion that they were gonna do anything else. You're telling me you didn't like their, like, motto, like, and the overly dramatic animation on it in the Sun and Moon episode? They didn't even do the motto in the other one.
I liked Wobbuffet wearing a wig.
What did they call it? Like Wabafina or something?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. That's interesting, because I mean, I think that the Sun and Moon one is just a lot better than the Diamond and Pearl one. I still think they're both boring. Like, I understand. I'm not.
Right.
But I just kind of thought that was a clear... I thought that the differentiation of allowing Pokemon to use moves and be Pokemon added a certain visual flair that just was not in Diamond and Pearl. Like, to be fair, I will say that Diamond and Pearl, both episodes do try their best to make ping pong interesting. I just think that inherently, watching people play ping pong, it's one of the least interesting sports to watch. In my opinion. No, I shouldn't even say that, because I don't. There might be professional ping pong that's, like, broadcast, and maybe it's interesting.
Drinking Josh?
They play pool, don't they?
No. In the episode, Josh is done.
Oh,
remember at the end? Ha ha!
All right, that's fair. Listen, let me rephrase all of this, but just saying that, like, making an entire episode where, like, in both episodes, it's got to be at least, like, 12 minutes is dedicated just to them playing ping pong. That's a really difficult thing to make that visually interesting, and I think that both episodes give it a noble shot. Although I don't know that either of them really, ace the point.
That's a nice way to put that, yeah.
Did you like the bluffs in Sun and Moon? Because I thought those were both really funny moments.
The bluffs.
Okay, so Kiawe goes to use his Z move, and then he's just like, nah, JK, it's a light attack. And he taps the ping pong ball. You don't remember that?
Oh, yeah. And then the other person retaliates. And they're like, oops, sorry, I guess I can do that too. Yep. It was unexpected. I found it funny personally.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's different. It's not what I normally think of when it comes to Pokemon humor. It feels different, and that's a different aspect I do like about it.
Okay, I think both these episodes have a weird element at the end, in the sense that the Sun and Moon episode, it's such a complete cop-out at the end. So okay. Alima's rival, ping pong rival, is this dude, this really intense dude. And I think he's
like unibrow.
Right, I think he's pretty funny, to be honest. I think his intensity for ping pong is, like, that's a very anime thing to do, and I think that was kind of funny and kind of interesting. But the whole thing with him is that during the match, he's kind of, like, abusive to his Mindfu, which also very odd Pokemon choice.
Yeah.
Not a very beloved Pokemon, just throwing it out there.
Well, I couldn't tell if he was, like, a parody of, like, a stereotypical villain or if he was actually a stereotypical villain, because I wrote down one of his quotes. He says, "I only care about my power. Here it comes, loser."
He was a parody. I believe he was. I mean, sometimes the anime can be very tone deaf as to what is a parody and what isn't.
Yeah.
But no, the writing in Sun and Moon would not have done that legitimately, I don't believe. The writing in the, like, Indigo League in the beginning of Pokemon would have had a character like that 100%.
Yeah.
Anyway, and speaking of that, this guy reminded me of one of the first trainers Ash runs into, AJ, who's abusive to his Sandshrew, and, like, he trains his Sandshrew, like, with a whip, and that's deemed as bad because animal abuse, yo. But no, like, the thing is that this guy, like, yells at his Mindfu, like, he's like, don't you miss that again. Yeah, he's And Ash and the gang point this out during the match because the idea, like everything with Pokemon, is that like you got to have a good bond with your Pokemon if you want to get anywhere. The battling is not just about shouting out moves. You got to have heart power with your Pokemon. So they say this. They're like, oh, wow, that's not right that he's treating his Pokemon like this. And at the end of the episode, Alima's like, I'm sorry that I said you're treating your Pokemon poorly. We all have different training styles. And it's like, what? Excuse me? Like, no, that this dude doesn't apologize for being like nasty to his Pokemon who's doing its best. Honestly, I feel like they could have made it where the guy was not as abusive, but more like just like pushing the mind food. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
well, the only indication of why he might feel remorseful is because at the end when he's defeated, like he looks at it and it's like falling down in slow motion. He gets like he has like an emotional face.
Right. And I mean, that's nice that he cares for his Pokemon, but like he still shouldn't treat it like that. Alima should not apologize for calling out bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. And so I thought that was a cop out, and for no real reason. They could have either made it like more of a misunderstanding, like, oh no, I call my Pokemon dummy because it's just like a joke we have. They could have made it a twist, whereas it's kind of like a twist, but it's just the least efforted twist ever.
Right.
Oh, this guy wasn't actually a jerk. He was just kind of a jerk. I'm sorry I called you a jerk for acting like a jerk. Ooh.
Right.
Because Pokemon has this weird fixation with like rivals that they're not like, you're not supposed to hate them. They're just rivals. They push you to be better. And like, so that's what they try to frame it as. This is Alima's rival. Like, he's not a bad guy. He's just the rival. But it doesn't make sense with what they presented previously. And it feels like a cop out instead of just having this guy. Nope. He's just abusive to Pokemon.
He's not held accountable.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the Diamond and Pearl episode, Ambipom leaving is dumb.
Well, I also hate how they build anticipation for it too, because like they make it pretty clear once they bring it up that he's going to leave, and then they have they have one of those notorious flashback montages, and then they also have this thing where
sad music.
And Don's like, "Are you gonna leave?" And then they just have these shots that like push in on all of the characters' faces, like looking like, "Is he gonna do it or is he not?"
It's a soap opera.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna go play ping pong.
What it is.
It's way over melodramatic.
Yeah, it's like, here's 14 minutes of like ping pong, like a silly game as an episode idea. And then all of a sudden we're going to get super dramatic. This game that this Pokemon learned about literally the day of, like, it's dumb.
It's very dumb.
Like, I could understand if Ambipom, like, okay, like if this trainer gave Dawn a card and was like, you know, hey, you can find me here if Ambipom ever wants to come train with me. And then like there's another episode later down the line where like Dawn plays Pokemon again with Ambipom and she sees that Ambipom really likes it, and you could develop that it makes about as much sense as anything else in the Pokemon world that this Pokemon wants to become a ping pong player. But like to do it as one episode where like you are not ready for the gut punch, like in Bye Bye Butterfree and in Crossing Paths, both episodes do at least amp you up for the idea that this Pokemon could leave.
Yes.
This episode really just kind of like throws this idea at you at the end that it's just like, wait, what? Like what?
And then it pulls those themes of like, you know, animal welfare and not being a selfish trainer and doing what's in its best interest and letting it do what it wants to do.
Right.
It's almost like, what is the purpose of a Pokemon? I don't know.
Why do we catch Pokemon if we're just going to let them do whatever they want? Really? One thing that you probably didn't notice, but here's a cool point, is that in the Sun and Moon anime, Pokemon very rarely go in their balls, or like for the most part, all of Ash's Pokemon and all of his friends' Pokemon are out almost all the time.
I didn't pick up on that, but now that you say it.
So obviously Pikachu is out all the time. That's just always been a thing in the anime. And then when Misty gets Togepi's always out. And then like ever since then, you know, Dawn had a Piplup, May had Mudkip?
Yeah,
I don't know. May had something, I think, that she left out all the time. I think Brock started leaving his Krogunk out and his Boneslide. I don't know. Anyway, it became a recurring thing that there was like one Pokemon that each trainer had that they left out.
Right.
But Ash never like kept all of his Pokemon just out. Like sometimes he'd bring them out, obviously, but like Sun and Moon has his Rowlet, his Litten, his Rockruff, and his Pikachu are all just kept out basically all the time. The only one of the main characters' Pokemons that's put away sometimes is Turtonator, because it's a giant turtle thing. I don't think it's it's not in this episode, I don't think. That's just the Sun and Moon thing. I found that to be like a really positive change. It's interesting also of note that like our first comparison, we compared the earliest anime to the middle of it, which is Diamond and Pearl, and now we're comparing Diamond and Pearl, the middle of it, to the latest version of the anime.
Yeah. Did
you pick up anything? Obviously the art style is different, but did you like feel like anything was majorly different between the two?
Well, it was different because I don't know these characters. Right. From the Pokemon I know, it's like always Ash traveling around a region trying to defeat gym trainers and then having like certain like one or two acquaintances that he travels around with.
Yeah, he doesn't do that in Sun and Moon.
Yeah, it seems like he stays on this island. It almost seems kind of like Hawaiian themed.
Let me put it this way, okay? In the games, the equivalent of gyms in Sun and Moon are the Island Challenge, where it's kind of like gyms, but it's a little different. In the anime, that doesn't exist yet. I mean, there's a version of the Island Challenge, but it doesn't exist as in depth as in the games. In the games, there's all these challengers, and those challengers are the people that Ash is going to school with currently. But there's just the kahunas, like the leaders of the islands, and Ash is doing that, but very, very slowly. So yeah, no. But that's the thing is that a ping pong episode in Sun and Moon feels a lot more natural, just because that's what a lot of Sun and Moon is these games and these competitions and just kind of like day-to-day life, but with Pokemon, which is different. Now, I'm not saying it's better or worse. It has its pros and cons, but it is different.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like, and I didn't watch the episodes around this in Diamond and Pearl, but I feel like if I were watching the Pokemon anime and, you know, Ash is battling and all this stuff, and I tuned in and here's a new episode and it's about ping pong with... Does any Pokemon even use a move in this episode? Like, in the whole episode? I don't really think so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I would kind of be disappointed, especially if I was a kid. Like, I would feel like this is kind of out of place. Not that they...
Like a filler episode?
Well, filler episodes are not out of place in the Pokemon anime. I'm just saying, usually they're more... let's actually have the Pokemon use their moves and be Pokemon.
Right.
Instead of, like, the Detective Pikachu thing of, it's just a little person, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I'm on the side that the Sun and Moon episode is better. It has more visual flourish in what it does. It's by far still a pretty boring episode, but at least I feel like I learned a little bit about ping pong, and at least I feel like I got to see some cool Pokemon doing some cool moves. I definitely found like the bluffs to be pretty funny. It was kind of neat seeing Counter and Sketch be used and seeing Wobbuffet actually do something. Whereas the Diamond and Pearl episode, I just didn't get anything out of it, to be honest with you. I thought, yeah, it's like, it's still got that old anime thing of being really hokey. It's got a very strange way to write off a character just out of the blue. It definitely needed something more, in my opinion. And I think having Pokemon moves might have done that.
This is tough because you just raised a lot of really good points. Like,
yeah, I did.
Like, I think in the Diamond and Pearl episode, the ping pong game itself flows way better. And like I mentioned before, my absolute least favorite aspect of Pokemon, the anime, looking at it in retrospect, is having things spoon-fed to me and explained to me constantly. And that's... They pretty much sway away from that in the Diamond and Pearl episode, whereas a lot of that is in the Sun and Moon episode. But also, yeah, the Pokemon release at the end of it is so stupid, and it's just totally, yeah, it shouldn't have been a thing.
You know what? Butterfree being released and Dustox, like, you know, like, obviously you're attached to these Pokemon. Like, Butterfree is the first Pokemon that Ash caught.
Also, this, like, they don't know this guy. He just, like, he walks up to them, like, early on in the day, and he's like, hey, you know, this Pokemon's really good at ping pong. It's like, who is this guy? You don't know what he's going to do with your Pokemon.
What even... Oh, God. I don't even remember. What was I saying? You know, like Butterfree and Dust, like, I get it. You're releasing those Pokemon because they want to go do their once-in-a-lifetime mating ritual, and they're gonna go off and find their fit. Like, that's a pretty noble reason to release a Pokemon. Like, with this, it's just like, I got this new hobby of playing ping pong. Dawn, you can't play ping pong with this thing. You're too busy with your contests. No, let's be real here. Ambipom is a stupid looking Pokemon that never should have existed. And Dawn's main thing is that she competes in contests, and Ambipom is a stupid, ugly thing that isn't going to win a single contest. No, but I mean, if Ambipom wasn't a stupid looking Pokemon, and if I had watched the anime through the 3rd and 4th gens, I would feel like I was invested in this Pokemon. And by the way, I didn't even watch the 3rd gen, and for some reason, somehow I obtained the knowledge that Apom had a running gag with Ash where Apom would steal Ash's hat. Not dissimilar to what happened with Mankey, which is just kind of weird in retrospect. Because both Pokemon got, like, not released, but, like, is in training, is how the Bulbapedia articles state. But
Right.
but you know, Apom had like an interesting, like, a gimmick with Ash, and it had a relationship, and it got traded, it evolved, like, it, you know, people were invested in this Pokemon, and it's just like ping pong. It's nice that Dawn allowed it to make a choice, and I do kind of like this symbolism of like the ping pong ball in one palm and the Pokeball in the other palm. Like, that was kind of cool. But like, it just is a weird way to write it out. At least like do it in 2 episodes, spread out. Like, don't just introduce, you know, before this episode, you had no idea that Pokemon ping pong was a concept in the world of Pokemon. Unless there's another Pokemon ping pong episode somewhere out there in the anime that I don't know about. Which with this anime, anything is possible. Yeah.
So, I didn't really enjoy either of these two. I'm really conflicted, but I'll decide it right now. I think, because okay, judging the ping pong game itself, I think Diamond and Pearl did it better. The ending is what really soils that Diamond and Pearl episode for me.
And you're not even attached to that Pokemon in any way.
No, and that's the thing. Like, episode to episode, and the explaining in the Sun and Moon episode, the art style. That's not even. I'm not holding that against the episode. That's just the show.
You can if you want. I mean, I love the art style.
And I don't think the games flowed as well. Plus the explaining and you know what? Screw it. I'll say the Sun and Moon episode is the better episode.
You don't have to, man.
No,
you just stated a lot of negative things.
That point, just like the urgency of it, and it's so stupid. That is what ruins the episode for me. It is so stupid.
I want to believe that O is working with Team Rocket. He just sends Ambipom to Giovanni.
Yeah.
And Giovanni's like, what is this stupid
He feeds it to his Persian.
I'd expect this from Jesse and James, but you? Oh.
Yeah.
You're the second letter in Rocket. You should be...
Plus, yeah, I think the animal welfare message in the Sun and Moon episode was, I guess, a little bit more tolerable than it was in the Diamond and Pearl one.
Oh, man.
Both of them also, I don't know if you noticed this, they both had, like, the same bracket animation.
Yeah, it's funny. Oh, speaking of, okay, here's something I did really appreciate. This is a very small thing. I don't think you would have picked up on this, but in the Diamond and Pearl episode, they're like, flip a coin to see who goes first. And there's this little anime. Do you know what that's about?
No.
Okay, so there's this little animation of a Magikarp coin flipping on like a screen, and it's close up. You wouldn't know unless you watched the anime or you played the games. In the 4th generation games, there's this thing called the Pokétch, and essentially it's like a little second screen that sits on the bottom screen of the DS because of the first DS games. And so basically it's like a smart watch with like a bunch of different apps on it, and one of the apps was a Magikarp coin that you could flip. And so I thought it was a really cool way to, like, hey, this doesn't matter in any way, but here's a little fan service to those who used this app in the game.
Yeah, that is cool.
Yeah. So, and also, actually, there's another comparison because Rotom Dex is the equivalent of the Pokétch in Sun and Moon, but the Pokétch never started talking to me and interrupting my game and interrupting me wanting to look at the map screen by asking me, hey, did you have a fun Pokemon battle? Rotom Dex is the worst. He's so bad in the anime. There's episodes dedicated to him, dude.
No.
You don't even know. Like, it's bad. You said you're picking Sun and Moon?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the Sun and Moon anime in general, like, I am basically halfway through it because I'm on episode like 26 or something of the 2nd season, and there's 3 seasons, or they're on the 3rd season. I guess there could be a 4th one, but I feel like they'll move on to the next generation of Pokemon as it's coming out, and no further comment will be made about it. but no, like I'm halfway through it, and I do feel like it's really meandering. Like at first it was kind of cool to see Ash like just living on an island and all this day-to-day life stuff. But at this point, and really the ping pong episode did kind of cinch it for me that like I'm very ready for Ash to like do something, because as of where I'm at in the anime, essentially the main hook now is that they're catching ultra beasts and they're helping deal with these ultra beasts, which is it's based on the game. But like they've only done that in like 4 episodes. Like by and large, it's like, let's go to school and let's meet. Like the previous episode before this, Alima comes and they're trying to figure out if Alima has seen a Pokemon with its eyes open, because it's a Pokemon that's always asleep. It's not it's not Brock.
It's not Drowsy.
It's not Brock. No. But yeah, like that's generally kind of like how the plots are going, and Team Skull has shown up about like 6 times in the whole 2.5 seasons I've seen. That's weird.
What they're called, Team Skull?
Yes. They're just thugs. I haven't seen the leader yet. I don't even know if Guzma shows up. All right, so we have a viewer comment from Kirby Over Yonder, who says, I thought the Sun and Moon episode was much better than the Diamond and Pearl episode. I like how Sun and Moon has more expressive and over-the-top animation. The animation in the Diamond and Pearl episode is honestly too stiff for me to be invested. The Sun and Moon episode has a lot of dramatic camera angles and overall feels a lot more fun. I kind of like the message of letting your kid choose what they do in Diamond and Pearl, but I found everything else to be so boring that it didn't resonate well with me. I was able to take away more from the Sun and Moon episode since I was more invested in it. I agree with you, Kirby Over Yonder.
Yeah.
I think that's a very on-point take, to be honest with you. Yeah. Okay, and Monsters, you want to read the other one?
Sure. And our other comment is from Azur, or Asir, however you say that. And they say...
Azir a flute. It's a Pokemon item.
And they say, to be honest, this is a case of no winners for me. I hate both episodes for very different reasons. The Sinnoh one is just so out of left field. Like, it felt like a monotonous waste of time, and for a while it is. But then it does one of the stupidest endings I've ever seen. The Alola Ping Pong one frustrates me less, but I still have issues. If I had to pick, I'd choose the Alola one. It's one bad episode as opposed to one that directly invalidates an entire arc. But it's frustrating, poorly paced, and has some bad implications regarding a pretty serious topic. If I can give these episodes credit, they have a lot to talk about. And yes, they do. That's fair.
Yeah, I feel you on that on that too. Azir nails it as well. The messaging in the Diamond and Pearl episode is better, because the message is essentially like let your child, I guess child is the closest thing. Let your thing that you have legal guardianship over, I guess, decide for itself. Like I do like that Dawn did that. She didn't even push Ambipom towards one particular direction. She just said, you know what, it's up to you.
Yeah. Letting her animal equivalent go off with a stranger to play a game he's only known for one day is much more respectful.
Well, to be fair, I feel like playing ping pong is much safer than like the other activities in the Pokemon world.
No, yeah.
Well, except, wait a minute. The funny thing is, despite no battling happening in the Diamond and Pearl episode, for some reason Dawn still takes Ambipom to a Pokemon Center. Remember? Like, why?
Yeah. What? He's gonna have a miserable existence.
There's Joy is like, your Pokemon isn't injured in any way, you idiot. Like, it's fine.
Well, all these other Pokemon are out there doing moves and having fun battles. I'm just sitting at a table, swinging my arm back and forth.
Yeah, like... Oh god, I want like a Pokemon Chronicles episode to just be like what Ambipom has been up to.
Where are they now?
We need that. We need, like, someone needs to make a parody video of like all of the Pokemon that have been released or like sent off with another trainer in the anime, of like what happened to them. Like, we just assume that they went off and they're happy forever.
It's like Butterfree got divorced from his partner. He doesn't have custody of his kids.
Butterfree, I would guess Butterfree doesn't have a long enough lifespan for him to still be alive. Like, but yeah, there we go. Maybe we'll talk about one that's not Diamond and Pearl next time.
or some good episodes if they exist.
They exist. Hey, people down in the comments and on the recast server, give us suggestions for 2 really awesome Pokemon episodes. We won't be doing a Pokemon episode like soon, but give us suggestions, and next time we do a Pokemon episode, we'll do one that's epic. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. Monsters, you got some trivia?
I do. So, according to a Pokedex article I found earlier, there's over 800 Pokemon.
Yep.
However, I'm going to have you, well, actually, what I'm going to do is read off some descriptions that I edited, to make them intentionally not include the names of these Pokemon. I'm going to read out a brief description of a certain Pokemon from Bulbapedia. There's going to be 5 of them. I need you to give me the name of the Pokemon and the generation it originated from to get the point.
That part's easy.
Okay.
I thought you were going to ask for the number, and I just be
No,
like, nope.
on the Pokedex, no.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
All right, so let's start with number 1. This rock/flying fossil Pokemon is a large creature. It is capable of flying, but is more adept at running. It can outrun even an automobile. It has the intelligence to work with its partners in order to catch prey. This Pokemon is extinct, but can be revived via fossils. It is omnivorous, along with hunting for prey. It has been seen eating fruit in the anime.
Oh, God. Okay, well, there's only so many fossil Pokemon. The running thing is what's getting me, because it can fly and run. Aerodactyl can fly. Can Aerodactyl run?
It can run. It's extinct. It likes fruit.
That doesn't sound like Aerodactyl. None of the other Gen 1 fossils can fly. The Gen 3 fossils, definitely not Lily. Oh, gosh. And it's not Craniato. God, man, like, this has got to be one of the newer fossils. It could be the Aurora one.
Have any guesses?
I'm just going to say Aerodactyl. I don't feel like that's right for Aerodactyl. I've never seen an Aerodactyl run, but I can't think of another fossil Pokemon that can fly.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but the correct answer is Archeops? Archeops?
Oh, Archeops. It's a Gen 5 fossil. Oh, yeah, that's stupid looking. Yeah. No, I mean, it only looks stupid in the animation because, it's flying in the animation, and it's, like, really bulky looking. Yeah.
All right.
It's better at running than flying. Okay, interesting. Good one.
0 for 1. All right. On to number 2. This bug/fighting type Pokemon has claws that allow it to dig into the ground for sturdy footing or to climb trees. Using its prominent horn, it throws opponents or competitors for food.
Heracross.
It can lift... That's correct. Oh, wait. From which gen?
It's from Gen 2.
That's correct. All right. You have a point.
Woo!
Number 3. This normal type Pokemon is commonly seen with its fur trimmed and its dyed... Let me restart.
Fur.
That is correct.
It's from Gen 6.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's its
I didn't
main
even
gimmick.
finish it. I read it wrong. You said it correctly. All right, so 2 out of 3. Next one. This psychic Pokemon is usually docile and will never attack first. However, when it is attacked, it will inflate its body and initiate a counter-strike. When 2 or more of this Pokemon meet, they will attempt to outlast each other in a battle of endurance.
Wobbuffet.
From which gen?
Gen 2.
That's correct. All right. That's 3 out of 4. And on to our last one. This dual-type steel and psychic mythical Pokemon is small, white, and humanoid.
Jirachi.
That's correct.
See, the typing makes it a little too easy, but yeah.
All right, 4 out of 5. That's pretty good.
Yeah. That's embarrassing on the fossil Pokemon though, because there's only so many of those things.
Yeah.
I'm rustier on like my Gen 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah, well, some of these I don't even know. Like, I don't know Furfro or Archeops or... That's it.
All right, well, thanks for that, Monsters. That was good.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's topic. Please join us next week for a little Foster's Home for Imagination.
We'll spice up some imagination, yeah.
Yeah, Imposter's Home for Make-em-up Pals. All right, PIEGUYRULZ out.
Catch you guys next time.